In the Seder of Sisa, the Torah recounts the first great national tragedy in Jewish history, the sin of the Egel Hazav, the golden calf. It was the first collective failure of the Jewish people, one that profoundly altered the course of Jewish history and reshaped their relationship with Hashem and with Moshe Rabbeinu. The timing of the event makes it all the more startling. The Jewish people had just stood at Har Sinai, purified and sanctified, proclaiming the immortal words Na'aseh v'nishma. Yet only a short time later they worshipped the Egel. Moshe had ascended the mountain to receive the Luchos, and when he did not return at the moment they expected, the people approached Aaron and demanded, Kum, aseh lanu Elohim asher yachul lefanenu. Rise and make for us a God who will go before us. From their gold and jewelry a calf emerged, and before it they sang and danced. As Moshe descended the mountain, Yehoshua said that he heard the kol milchama b'machaneh, the sound of battle in the camp. Moshe responded differently. Ein kol anos gevura ve'ein kol anos chalusha, kol anos anochi shamea. It's not the sound of triumph nor the sound of defeat. It is simply the sound of shouting. At first glance, this exchange is puzzling. What exactly did Yehoshua hear when he said that there was a battle in the camp? And what did Moshe mean when he rejected that interpretation and said that what he heard was merely a kol anos? Chazal addressed this question. In the fourth perek of the Yerushalmi Tanis, it is related that Moshe rebuked Yehoshua. Adam shu asid lahanhig srara al shishim riboy ve'eino yodeh lahavchin ben kol lekol. One who will one day lead the Jewish people does not know how to distinguish between one kind of sound and another. The Targum explains that Yehoshua thought he heard the people crying and lamenting, while Moshe understood that what he had heard was the sound of laughter. Rashi explains the exchange similarly. Yehoshua was trying to calm Moshe, as Moshe was already aware of the sin of the Egel. Yehoshua suggested that the turmoil in the camp might actually be a battle, that the firm ones, the loyal and faithful Jews, were fighting the rebels and the instigators who had led the nation into sin, and those that had sinned were already lamenting what they had done. Moshe corrected him. There was no such battle taking place. The firm ones were not organized and united against the sinners. What Moshe heard was not the sound of a struggle between two sides, but simply the sound of revelry. One explanation focuses on the word anos. The word can simply mean crying out. According to this understanding, the righteous may indeed have been raising their voices in protests, but Moshe's response carries a deeper criticism. At such a turning point in Jewish history, it is not enough merely to cry out. One must act. Or the word anos can be understood differently. As explained by the Rechovas Hanar, Zecher Tzadik Levracha, it can be referred to a response or an echo when a person stands alone in a large open place, such as a forest, valley, or empty hall, and calls out. He hears an echo reverberating back to him. When many people fill the space, however, the echo disappears. Moshe's words can therefore be understood this way. If matters were as Yehoshua suggested, if there truly were a battle in the camp, there would be either kol anos gvura, the cries of those prevailing, or kol anos chalusha, the cries of those who were being overcome. In such a situation, where many voices are shouting, no echo would be heard at all. Yet Moshe said, kol anos anochi shamea, I still hear an echo. That itself proves that the noise is not coming from a large multitude. The episode of the Egel itself illustrates this truth. Despite the dramatic scene described in the Torah, only a small portion of the nation actually participated in the sin. A handful of instigators cried out, Ela Elohecha Yisrael, but the majority were not involved. And that realization pained Moshe even more. For Yehoshua, a future leader, must know that loud noise does not necessarily represent the majority. This insight remains remarkably relevant. In every generation, and especially in modern times, a few voices can easily sound like many. Technology can amplify sound until a handful of people appear to be a crowd. One instrument can imitate an orchestra, and one voice can sound like a choir. So too in public life. There are always groups and leaders who create tremendous noise and fanfare, claiming to speak on behalf of the entire Jewish people. Yet often, it is nothing more than an echo, the noise of a few individuals, agitators, and rabble-rousers. When the Jewish people later learned of the severe consequences of the sin, the Torah says, Vayisabolu, they mourned, and V'lo shasu ish edyo alav, that no one had donned their jewelry. Yet immediately after, Hashem said to Moshe, Ve'ata hared edyecha me'alecha. Now remove your adornments from you. This requires explanation. If they had already refrained from donning their adornments, why was it necessary for Hashem to command them to remove them? Chazal explained in the Gemara Shabbos Pinchas Amud Beis that when the Jewish people proclaimed Na'aseh v'nishma, the angels descended and crowned every Jew with shnei ksarim, 2 crowns. Why did every Jew receive 2 crowns? If, as Chazal say, shnei melachim b'keser echad, 2 kings cannot share 1 crown, then certainly 1 king does not need 2 crowns. Some explain that the 2 crowns correspond to 2 aspects of Jewish life. 1 crown was for the weekdays, and the other, more beautiful and precious, was for Shabbos and Yontif. After the Maaseh HaEgel, the Jewish people removed 1 crown, most likely the higher crown associated with Shabbos and the festivals. They left upon themselves the other crown, the simpler one of the weekdays. But Hashem then said, V'ata hared edyecha me'alecha, remove even that one. The lesson is clear. Some Jews cast aside the crown of Shabbos and Yontif because of the avodah zarah of parnasa and success. They believe that they can still remain proud Jews with the other crown, the simpler crown of the weekdays. But with time, even that crown is lost through ignorance and children becoming disconnected from their roots. There's yet another lesson. The Jewish people removed their crowns because they had sinned, but Moshe had not participated in the sin. He kept his crown. Nevertheless, Hashem said to him directly as well, V'ata hared edyecha me'alecha, remove your crown. If the Jewish people have lost their crowns, then no one can retain his crown alone. Instead, we must carve new luchos and restore the crown of Torah to the entire Jewish people. The lesson remains as urgent today as it was then. Noise and commotion do not necessarily represent the many, and at decisive moments, it's not enough merely to protest, one must act. Nor can a Jew cast aside 1 crown while hoping to retain the other. When the crown of Shabbos and holiness is surrendered to the avodah zarah of parnasa and success, the remaining crown cannot endure. Our task, therefore, is not merely to preserve our own crown, but to restore the crowns of Torah and holiness to the entire Jewish people. When that happens, the words we recite in the tefillah will once again be fulfilled. Klil teferes barosho nasatulo b'yamdo lefanecha u'shnei luchos avinim horid biyado. A crown of splendor you placed upon his head when he stood before you, and he descended with the 2 stone tablets in his hand. Shabbat Shalom.